I'm gonna hold the mic like this the whole time.
Okay,
Oh, I thought
maybe.
you were smoking.
No, I'm
Sometimes
not.
that's good for engagement.
No, I don't.
I can't pop
Hitting
without my
that
vape,
dank
bro.
vape.
No.
That'll make us into like true podcast bros.
Your shirt completely blends in with the background.
I didn't even notice until
Oh
I
my
put it
gosh.
on. I just grabbed this after I showered, and then I got on here. I was like, you know what? Let's keep it. Whatever. It's kind of
Wait,
fun.
why is that the color scheme for a movie called The Green
I don't know. It looks good though.
Knight? It reminds me of McDonald's though.
It is like the exact McDonald's red and yellow. Now that you say it.
Yeah.
The Green Clown.
The Green Knight will be. Maybe they were just announcing the next person, and I don't even know the other ones. I know there's the Hamburglar, Ronald McDonald,
Grimace.
Grimace. I think those are the only three I know. I can't remember the other ones. There's a chicken, right?
There is a chicken.
Is the girl the chicken? Because I'm pretty sure there's a girl too.
Yeah.
There is a girl.
And then is there one more? I never. We didn't
feel
like
like the
go to
chicken and the
McDonald's
girl
a
are
lot when I
separate.
was a kid. I think they might be the
I don't
same
remember.
thing. Whatever. They should have made Happy Meal toys with it. Would have sold out. Would have made its money
Man,
back.
Happy Meal toys used to be the bomb.
Oh my god,
man.
wait. Ralph Ineson voicing Ronald McDonald.
Oh no.
Yes.
I don't know Ronald McDonald's catchphrases, so I can't do an imitation. But
Wait, is Ralph the Green Knight in this?
yeah.
Yeah, he's a Green Knight.
He's voicing Galactus. He's
Oh, yeah,
voicing
he is.
Galactus in the Fantastic Four movie.
He should voice everybody.
That's a great.
He's
voice.
in a ton of stuff. Like,
Right?
he's not
Yeah.
super well known, but he's in, like, everything.
His voice is great.
Yeah, no, he's really he's in The Witch. He's in Nosferatu. He's really good. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Interior Analysis. I'm Angel Michelli,
I'm Evan Westman.
I'm Jelani T. Kelly.
and this is our podcast on The Green Knight, not Monty Python, despite my background, but it's close enough.
I like the call
Anyway.
out, though.
Yeah, no, I was like, what am I gonna do? I can't find a meme that fully captures this film. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do Monty Python
Good call.
because
I
it's
need
great.
to see those
Because
movies. I don't think I've seen any of them.
I only watched Holy Grail like somewhat recently, like in the last year, and then I was rewatching it like a week ago. It's so funny.
That was my
I've seen
favorite when
parts
I
of
was,
it.
like, 13. It used to be, like, absolute top of all my lists.
It's still funny now. It's like it's astounding how much it holds up when it probably like I wouldn't say shouldn't. It's indescribable humor. Maybe we'll do a pod on that one day. That'd be fun.
Maybe.
This
Yeah.
scene, the scene behind you in the bridge scene, is what sticks in my head. When he asks you what his favorite color is, and he fails.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are, like, the big
Chicken!
ones. The Tale of Sir Lancelot is my favorite section. It is
What is your
maybe not
favorite
quite as
color?
named. I don't know that.
Blue, wrong. Anyway,
Anyway,
okay,
The Green
so
Knight, the much
The
more
Green Knight is the
serious
film, is
King
the film that we're
Arthur
doing.
movie.
It's another King Arthur movie. We're not doing Monty Python this time. We're doing The Green Knight. For those who don't know, although I guess if you're here, you probably do know, it is a take on an old Arthurian chivalric poem from like the 14th century, I think, that I feel like none of us have read, but it's okay because the movie's here. And I really love this movie. It was recommended to me by a mutual friend of me and Evan, on another Discord server that we're on.
I would have seconded that recommendation as well. I don't know if I was in that conversation, but I would have seconded it.
I'm not sure, but when I watched it, because this was like the first movie that I watched in like last year in like 2024, like right after Christmas. So it was like I think she'd been going on and on about it for like a few weeks, and I was finally like, I've been meaning to check it out anyway. Maybe I'll just do it, and it was like the best decision ever. It's so good. The visuals are great. The acting is great. Like the casting in this is just completely unreal. I don't understand how they got so many good actors all in one place. It's very like art housey, but it feels very accessible, which I really appreciated. The plot is not super difficult to follow. It's not a case where like everything is super overly ambiguous to the point where like you could follow along with what's going on pretty easily. It's very much like anybody could watch this and enjoy it, I feel like, just at least for the visuals or the music, which is great, or Dev Patel, who is amazing in everything. So I really love this movie. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars, something like that. So
Out of
yeah,
5, I assume.
out of 5, out of
Yeah.
5, yeah, no, out of 100. Um, what was your guys' first experience with the movie?
Should we save the negativity or should we rip off the Band-Aid?
It's up to you, Angel.
I guess it's up to you
Yeah,
guys.
so-
Yeah.
No, yeah,
I'll go. I'll go.
I'm
We'll
yeah.
have
I feel
July,
like
come
we'll
in
go. We'll do like a
with the rain
slow. We'll
cloud
do like a
after.
slow decline.
It's not. No, it's gonna be pretty fast because I also like this movie a lot.
Oh, okay.
So it's gonna be a sharp decline.
Oh, okay. We'll fall right off the cliff.
Yeah, we're gonna fall right off the cliff in a couple minutes when it's Jelani's turn. I also really like this. I was one of like the 6 people to go see it in theaters because it came out in August of 2021, which, as most of us probably remember, was not a great time to release a movie, at least financially. I think I liked it better on rewatches. This was my 3rd time seeing it. I largely agree with what you were saying a minute ago, Angel, about like it's fairly accessible. I think it's at least more accessible for me personally than most A24 stuff. A lot of their movies, like, I'm always like glad that A24 movies exist, but a lot of times with individual ones, I'm just like, okay. Like, it's cool that you got to make this, but it just doesn't really hit for me. This one mostly does. We'll probably get into some of where it doesn't, but this is like a flavor of A24 that works for me a lot. I also mentioned this at the end of the Gritty Fairy Tales video that I made last year as an example of like what I think that genre could be. Because this technically isn't a fairy tale, but it's at least close to one. I don't know the original story, and apparently I was listening to another podcast about it. Apparently there are some very big changes that are made from the original text in this, which I didn't know about until like yesterday. But I would love to see if gritty fairy tale movies, for whatever reason, come back. Like, this is still what I want them to be. Take a simple story, but make it really complex and give it a lot of thematic weight, and make it for adults, like unambiguously for adults. And I really appreciate that about this.
I mean, there's no part of this movie that's for children at all.
Nope.
It's not like watching like a fun Camelot, like Sword in the Stone cartoon. It's not like that at all.
There's not even an action scene.
Yeah, not really. I mean, well, kind of. We'll get into it kind of like toward the ending, because I feel like that ending, there's a little bit of it, but there's not like an action scene for the sake of having an action scene. Like, there's
I don't
not
think
any
there's
like
anything that counts.
there's not any like real duels or anything, which I never really thought about, but it's kind of cool, right? Because you think about this in relation to something like King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, a movie that I also enjoy, even if I acknowledge it's not very good. Like, I enjoy that one for the exact opposite reason. It's like a lot of crazy, bombastic Guy Ritchie action for no good reason other than just to have the cool action, and I like that. You know, this is sort of on the other end of the spectrum, though. It's very, like, contemplative, and it keeps with the tone and, like, emotion of the characters, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know we'll get into some more criticisms later, but this is one I want to mention now because it doesn't really fit with our topics. I do feel like the ideal cut of this movie is maybe 5 or 10 minutes shorter. It gets a little bit too slow for me at some parts. I think you could keep basically every scene, maybe one or two that I think are expendable. But for the most part, I think just make everything a little bit quicker just in the edit. It might not like go up in rating for me by a lot, but I think I would enjoy it a bit more.
I know what you mean. What would you, out of curiosity, like, what would you cut down?
Like, I think just
off the top
like
of your head?
they hold on a few shots too long. Like, if you just take most shots in this movie and make them like 5% shorter, not a lot, like maybe 1 second on each one or a few of them, and like just make it move a little bit quicker, because it's all very pretty. Like, I love looking at the shots, which is like, it certainly helps in a lot of places, but after a little bit with a lot of scenes, I'm just like, okay, I get it, it's very pretty, but I'm ready for the next thing now. So just to like cut down on that a little bit, Jelani, maybe we've been
It's your
too
turn, buddy.
positive. Tell us why we are wrong, or at least why you don't like this.
So maybe I still have the taste of a child because this movie wasn't for me. I never want to see this again. I hated this movie. I would rather watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre with an extended cut of the final girl screaming at the dinner table.
That bad?
I would rather
Jesus.
binge all 5 Final Destination movies back to back and watch Final Destination Bloodlines in theaters twice than rewatch this movie. I would rather reread and then immediately rewatch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and force myself to stay awake this time than rewatch this movie. This felt like a waste of 2 hours and not a fun, oh, I have 2 hours to kill. I had to step away from my laptop twice during this movie and to stimulate my brain elsewhere. I would say this film did nothing for me, bit like emotionally, but that would be a lie because I was actively pissed off watching it. Also, yeah, the movie was pretty when you could actually see. This movie was... I had to turn my lights off because I thought it was glare on my laptop, but no, this movie is darker than the damn final battle with the Night King in Game of Thrones. I wonder if I would have felt differently about this movie with some knowledge going in, other than it being Arthurian? I don't know how to say it.
I think Arthurian.
Arthurian.
There's no correct way to pronounce Gowan either, so
yeah.
You just pronounce.
Yeah,
it
apologies in advance for our pronunciations. We might screw them up pretty bad.
Yeah.
Well, I actually
American.
Minor sidebar. I heard today that they actually let the actors like do their own research on it and pronounce it the way that they got from their research. It's why everyone is pronouncing it like differently throughout the movie, which is kind of interesting.
That's a choice.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that choice, but it is a choice.
It's a little weird. I like the Garwin pronunciation because I think that's like the oldest version of it that they had. But I'm also okay with any of them. Anyway, we don't have to dwell on that. Continue.
I want to end my initial notes, though, by saying I have no hate towards anyone who made this. Obviously, I have no animosity whatsoever towards Angel for picking this movie. I'm just upset with the product. There's so much more. I have to talk about. We'll start with that.
I'm super interested to get into Jelani's topic now because, like, I had trouble making notes on this because so much of the movie did work for me. Not like I can't understand your reasons for not liking it, but like I want to hear from somebody who doesn't like it, like why, and see like a fully different opinion that like my brain hasn't gotten to yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I kind of want to start with your topic too, Jelani, just to keep it going and address your frustrations.
So my topic is symbolism into obscurity. I think this movie spends too much time not making enough sense of what it's showing. I'm not saying I need a narrator, but some context or plot or meaning would be nice. Just because your movie's artsy does not mean it needs to be offensively boring. There are several scenes where I'm asking myself, what was the point of that? There is no, I'm just going to be along for the ride moment for this movie as I am with other movies. I didn't write any examples or anything, but as I think, Evan, you were just along for the ride when it came to Mad Max Fury Road. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Like, there was no moment for me like this with this movie or anything like that because I did not once care what was being visually presented to me at any point during this movie. I actually wrote a list of the scenes that just didn't make sense to me or pan out later in the movie or anything of the sort. The Ghost Girl scene. I actually completely forgot about this scene before reading Angel's notes. And this is, I watched this, I think I watched this Saturday, 2 days ago. That's just to further prove nothing really stuck with me. The sleeping in the cave scene, when it's raining outside and the fox came in. Cool, man. The giant scene, that one actually is the worst one to me, because one, okay, there are giants in this world, I got it, we got magic, but now we got the Green Knight, and now they're just giants roaming. Where are they going? I don't know. Apparently this is Attack on Titan now, and they just start roaring, and then that's the end of the scene. What?
I'm actually kind of with you with all three of those. Is that the end of your list?
No,
Okay.
that's half
okay.
of it.
But I actually kind of agree with all three so far.
You're like, no, there's
if those
more.
are the ones you're listing.
The scene where he's tied up and just laying there. Okay, I get it. The scavengers betrayed him. Barry Keoghan betrayed him. Cool. And then he's just sitting there. He's laying in the dirt for what feels like 30 minutes. And he's just laying there. And then it pans back to him. He's a skeleton. Okay, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he wasn't the protagonist. I don't know, man. Are we going to follow somebody else like this is Psycho or something? Was that the point? And then it cuts back and he's still there. And I'm like, oh, God, why? What was the point in that? The fake out ending scene. I'll get more into it when we get to Evan's topic, but I hate fake outs when they don't feel like they've been earned. It just reminded me of I've never seen any Twilight movie fully, but I know of the infamous fake out scene from Twilight. I think it was the last movie. The entire Lord's castle scene talking about death, and then the sixth scene where he finishes and she's like, you're no knight. And then it's followed by one of the most unnecessary shots I've ever seen in a movie ever. And it had a sound effect.
God, I don't think you've...
I know exactly what scene you're talking about. There's so much.
I don't think I've ever seen you get this upset about any movie. Like, this... You didn't have this much vitriol for Spider-Man 2.
I'm trying to...
Are you wearing the symbiote right now? Is that what's happening?
No, this is my other black and white shirt from Dave & Buster's. But, and I'm trying to repress... This is me repressing right now. I could be so much more animated.
This is me at 10%. Just wait.
I'm gonna take it to a 15 in a minute here.
Your characters don't need to be obscure too if you're going to have your plot be nonsensical. We have a beginning and end to get to. The middle is just nonsense. You would think we'd get someone to root for, some personality, anything. But everyone talks in this movie in the exact same hushed tone. Like they don't want the audience to hear what they're saying.
They do whisper a lot.
Also, the fact that I didn't know the king was Arthur. After being told this was an Arthurian legend, just not the story you've been told or whatever the hell they said in the beginning, is also a knock against it. I just so happened to look up the cast and see that the dude that we just met, oh, wait, the king is Arthur? Okay, so if he's Arthur, he might have something to do with this movie. Nope, wrong. He is in, 2 scenes? Maybe, if you want to count 3 with the dream scene at the end? I like to think I'm not the average audience member, where I only go to the theater to see blockbusters or some famous, like, go see the Rock movies or something. If a movie follows the formula of every movie ever, I'll leave satisfied. Like Screenwriting 1, they follow those parameters. I'm just like, yeah, that was a great movie. They followed the structure, and I'm satisfied. I like to think I'm a little bit more seasoned than that, especially by this point. So if your movie is trying to be so symbolistic that all of the themes are lost on me, you did not do a good job. The only reason I understood one of the themes of masculinity is because Angel texted it as his topic in the chat. And then I realized, I guess that could be one of the things this movie is trying to say. Because if I didn't read that, I wouldn't know what the point was. Also, I should not have to do research or read scholarly articles on whatever the hell your movie is trying to say. It should be not even just enjoyable. It should be watchable. At the bare minimum, it should be watchable on the surface level. There are plenty of brilliant movies that are also entertaining to watch. Look at most of, if not all of Jordan Peele's films. Look at Sinners more recently. Look at The Menu. Also, watch those episodes we have on those. Those are pretty good. Mm-hmm. And we'll probably do Sinners when it's streaming. Movies are a visual medium, moving pictures, so use them to say something. Then, if your movie is interesting enough, leave people wanting more by doing their own research, kind of like what we did with Nope, all the parallels to anime and biblically accurate angels in that. But you didn't need to know that in order to enjoy the movie.
Okay.
Wow.
So I don't feel as strongly. I don't really disagree. with most of it. I do. The only point that I'm going to push back on is that there are no other themes. I think there are a lot of themes in this movie, but I think it almost becomes a problem of too many. The other podcast I listened to, let me pull it up because I should name it to give them credit. But I listened to that like yesterday and today. Unspooled did an episode. I'd never listened to anything else by them, but they did an episode on this a while back, and they were breaking down a lot of themes that I hadn't noticed. And I'm glad you brought up Jordan Peele, because I think he is a really good counterpoint to this. I think when we did Nope, I had like a small topic about the balance between like making your like meaning come clear on rewatch with a lot of symbols, like balancing that with actually making somebody enjoy it enough to go rewatch. And I think Jordan Peele and Chris Nolan are two people who really strike that balance well. Especially, Get Out and Nope, I think are probably two of the best examples of that ever. This definitely errs too much on the side of going for meaning and not enough on making it a enjoyable experience. That said, I've enjoyed this all 3 times watching it. The way you reacted to this is kind of how I felt about Eraserhead when I watched it a couple months ago. I don't know if my rant would have been quite as angry, but I was like actively upset watching that movie. Every like scene, I was just like, "What the hell is this, man?" Like, okay, like what?
1997? No, it's a 1977 movie, horror movie.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, 76.
Yeah, David
maybe?
Lynch.
77.
I have tried other.
That's
David
what I haven't
Lynch
seen yet. I gotta get
since
to it.
Then, yeah, a friend of the show, Taylor D. Adams. Sorry. He showed that to me recently, and then we followed it up with Mulholland Drive, which I liked a little more, just to clear my name with all the David Lynch fans. I'm not an anti-Lynch person, I don't think. Those are the only 2 I've tried, though. Anyway, I agree that Act 2 of this movie, which is like every scene that you named is basically just all of Act 2, that is when I'm least engaged. And it turns out I know at least one of the little vignettes, the little side quest that he has, the one with Saint Winifred, that is based on another story of Saint Winifred, who's like a real saint, but it has nothing to do with the Arthurian legend, the original one. And I do kind of agree with, like, in all of those scenes, like between Barry Keoghan mugging him, going into the cave, the giants, Saint Winifred, I don't quite know, like, they all feel kind of like parables that he's supposed to be learning from. And I don't quite know what he's supposed to learn from most of them. I feel like Saint Winifred, you kind of get, like, he says, "What will you give me in return?" She says, "Why would you ask me that?" So that one, I guess you could say, is like, okay, he's meant to be selfless. He's meant to be giving. He's a knight. He's supposed to be chivalrous and just help the people he beats.
But she, like, got offended at that. I'm like, okay, maybe there's more to this there. No, the scene ended, and then we never heard from her again.
Yeah, and they don't have an effect on each other. Like, if you're talking about, like, like the screenwriting one rule of, like, every scene should have a purpose, well, pretty hard to tell what the purpose of those is. Certainly, they have no causal relationship to each other. At most, you can say, like, the people who mug him take away his horse, so now he's got to walk. That's about it.
To spend money on some of this, like the scene where he's traveling out of the castle and the kids are chasing him, and it's that long take where he's just hobbling on the horse. Who was that for?
I kind of liked that. I kind of liked just the feeling of going with him.
I did too. It was cool to just watch the visual of it.
So, I agree with you on a lot of your take, Angel. I'll let you jump in, too. I just want to add one bit of pushback first. I'm not saying this should work for you. I will never ask you to watch this again. I do hear you on, like, what is the point of a lot of this? I think there is meaning there to be found. Like, he is putting stuff in there to dig into, and he's not, apparently in interviews, he has not been especially dogmatic about, like, what does this thing mean. So I think there is stuff there to dig into. David Lowery, sorry, okay. That's who I meant by he.
The director, yeah,
and writer.
Director, writer.
Oh, he wrote it too. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So he is leaving a lot up to interpretation. And I think you can make a good case, and I think you have made a good case, that there is too much left up to interpretation. Because
Why? Yeah, why make the movie? Everybody can just use their imagination. Like, I could read the poem and use my imagination as to how this movie goes, but why make it? It's too wide. Too. Sorry. Good.
yeah, it's not like specific enough because I think you can. We've talked about other movies on here where
A lot,
we
yeah.
get into symbols and say like, okay, what does this mean? And there maybe are multiple interpretations. You brought up a couple, the menu. We took a few different readings of those movies when we talked about them. But I think there's enough there, like the menu is pretty clear in what it's broadly about, and then you can use that as a lens to like read into other symbols.
Even
And
Sunshine.
even Sunshine, yeah. I'd say that's another one where that's the case.
Snowpiercer, Parasite.
Snowpiercer, Parasite, absolutely. I have a thing I want to say about symbols, and I wanted to bring up Parasite as well. But Angel, did you have anything you wanted to respond to as well?
Yeah, I wanted to jump on some of this, but specifically with like some of these scenes, because like I absolutely understand your perspective, Jelani. Like I get it, and there's parts of it that I definitely do agree with. I think that like, see, okay, so full disclosure, there's stuff that I didn't pick up on the first time I watched this movie. In that time since I first watched it, I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times total, and I have watched it after having read a lot of it, read a lot of interpretations. Like, I haven't read the poem, but I've read a lot of like articles about it, watched a lot of video essays on it. So I've gotten like multiple different takes on like what's going on and kind of figured out like what the consensus is. So I think that on this rewatch, it was kind of easier for me to make sense of what most people think they were going for than when I watched it the first time. And
So
I
you
think
did
that
your
what
research prior to that helped.
a little bit, yeah, but no, but I this was also after I had seen the movie already. So I
Okay.
had already
Okay.
seen the movie and enjoyed it, and I kind of knew a little bit about what the themes were. So like what you were talking about with like what is the point of like certain of these scenes. So I think what a lot of people have interpreted as is like there's specific chivalric virtues that I cannot remember off the top of my head right now, and I probably should have put those in my notes. But I think that each scene, and it's definitely like this in the poem, is meant to test one of these virtues. And essentially what he's doing is he's failing every single one of them. I think one of them is like charity, and that's where the Barry Keoghan scene comes in, where it's like, he doesn't even think to pay this kid for giving him directions, or even say something as simply as, sorry that your brother died. Something like that. That's a big thing. And so it's kind of showing that over the course of the story, he's confronted with all of these choices of like to be selfish or to be selfless and honorable, and he kind of makes the wrong choice every single time up until the end. So like the Ghost Girl scene's a big example. His first instinct right before he helps her is to ask her, what do I get in return? He's trying to find something to maybe help him with the whole Green Knight situation he's found himself in. And he kind of sees this as an opportunity because this Ghost Girl, he's helping her, maybe she could give him some kind of magic something to help him out. And obviously, that's not the right move. They kind of, I don't want to say hit you over the head with it, but it is stated very explicitly in a few of those
I
scenes.
think it's certainly
And
the
so,
most
though,
obvious out of all of the side quests. That
yes.
one like is clearest in its meaning and like the
Oh,
theme that it's
absolutely.
dealing in.
For sure. And it also, but also a thing that I agree with too is like each of those things, they feel very individual, very parable like. They feel not even like entirely like side quests, but almost as if you're pausing to do a mission in a video game or something, right? And like each one has a specific lesson. And they make it very obvious that he's stopping and going and doing each of these things. So like the giant scene probably doesn't hit very well because the whole point is like he's trying to take the easy way to get to the Green Knight by riding across the valley on a giant shoulder until the fox stops him. And that is kind of like it doesn't hit as hard as like some of the other scenes. Like I think the Ghost Girl scene hits a little harder because it feels more personal. That just kind of feels like something that happened to happen to him. It wouldn't have been a big deal had he done it, maybe. And it also wouldn't have been a big deal if it had never happened to him, because he's kind of learning that same lesson over and over again anyway.
Let me push back on the giant thing for a sec, because one, I would do the exact same thing. Two, the rules never specified he needed to go there on foot.
This is very true. This is very true. Which, again, that's why certain scenes like that, they don't necessarily land the right way. And I think that's totally fair. And again, because each of these feels very individual, they don't feel like they're building on each other every single time. And I think that's part of the reason why it may not feel like the narrative is really building to anything, is each lesson isn't, leading into the next one. They're separate lessons, all kind of about the same thing. And like, for me, I enjoyed each individual one and they work, but I can see why they didn't necessarily for some people. I can see why.
What's the cave scene mean?
I have no idea what the cave scene means. I know what the fox is supposed to mean, but actually the fox was something I wanted to bring up too, because that was one where I'm surprised you didn't bring up the fox, because I think the biggest interpretation is that the fox is his mother. But the fox itself makes very contradictory decisions, and I was a little confused, even on my rewatch, about like what the fox wanted to do, because the fox at some points is leading him towards the Green Knight, but then at other points is telling him to go back. And I guess that's kind of the back and forth of like his mom is like, well, I called the Green Knight, I did this to him, I'm kind of going to get him killed, but at the same time he needs to learn his lesson. And that's where it kind of felt like they needed to pick a direction if they were going to use that magical element in there. You know what I mean? And they kind of don't do it. And that's why I think the back half generally feels a little less focused until we get to the end scene. Not just that, but the fact that like a good hour is spent, or almost an hour is spent in that castle. So that one castle sequence is like very long.
I don't think it's that
compared
long
to everything else. I was watching.
The Lord's
I
Castle?
think he gets there like a little. So it's not super long, but
I don't think it's more than 20
last
minutes. It's not an hour.
It's longer than that.
It's longer than 20 minutes.
It's longer than 20 minutes, because I think time code wise, the movie's like around 130 minutes. He's there around like the 75-minute mark. The ending sequence is only like 15-20 minutes long total, like when he's in the chapel.
I thought it was
so
longer,
like,
but yeah, it's not long.
Yeah, I mean, I was like kind of looking at the time codes as I went just to see how the breakdown was. So like he does a lot of this other stuff very quickly, and then he's in the castle for like a really long time.
Because there's a bunch of scenes there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of scenes like in the castle. Like there's a lot of scenes that I feel like maybe could have been done in one scene or two scenes. Like there's a lot of scenes with the lady of the castle.
Or cut out entirely.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I enjoy some of them, but they do feel expendable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually had a lot of trouble kind of like, I had to rewatch Alicia Vikander's speech in the castle a few times to kind of like see what she was really trying to say. I think it was about man ravaging the earth, but I wasn't entirely sure, and I kind of like disconnected from it. I'm not sure why.
Because it's boring. Sorry.
I mean, maybe. No, it's okay.
I kind of disconnect from it too. Like every time I've seen it, I'm like, oh, we're getting theme here, and then I'm like,
Yeah, I heard something about rot, and then she
Right.
went back to whispering under her breath, and I disconnected.
Yeah, it just gets real tense, and like as cool as the environment becomes, like the horror tone of it, that's kind of cool. I'm like, but what is she saying?
it doesn't seem to tie into the rest of it. Like, I think a lot of the problem, or something that could be a solution here, is giving some kind of framing to all of this.
I thought it would tie into Christianity, because I was wondering when that would come back, because they're talking about God and Christmas, and I'm like, okay, so this has got to be one of the themes, right? And it never comes up again.
Yeah.
There's two stories, like other, I guess, quest narratives that I'm thinking of as a comparison to this. One is The Hobbit, and one is The Odyssey. And I have thought a lot about both of those books. I had audiobooks, abridged ones for The Odyssey, but growing up I listened to them a lot. And I feel like every one of those little, like, side quests in both of those stories are a little bit more exciting, for one thing. Like, they're just kind of fun as, like, because The Hobbit is kind of meant to be read to your kids one chapter a night, and each one is a little, I think there's a couple that are not as fun, but for the most part, it's like each chapter is a fun little 20-minute adventure to
It's its
read
own
your
little
kid
thing,
before bed.
which is cool.
Yeah, but when you tie it into like a whole broader narrative, most of those individual scenes and like parts of the quest are meant to test Bilbo's courage and bring him like to certain steps on a character arc. It's all about him finding courage and becoming a leader. And I feel like that's signaled pretty well from the beginning. I don't think we have that quite as clearly with Gawain in this.
We don't know him.
Yeah, like we get, and maybe we'll get into this a bit more in your topic, Angel, but like, I don't quite understand what his flaw is at the beginning. Like, he does seem inexperienced. He seems like he's not grateful for his privilege. He feels kind of like a rich trust fund kid, a little bit. But he's not really hurting
I didn't think
anyone.
he was rich until dude said he was his nephew, and I was like, one, y'all don't look alike. Two, what?
There's not much of a, like, because I feel like you could frame it in a way when, like, he cuts off the Green Knight's head. Like, what flaw is causing him to do that? Is he just trying to, like, prove that he's worthy? Is it from insecurity? Is it hubris? Is it, like, headstrongness?
Yes, and we're definitely getting into we'll definitely get into that with my topic because I have a lot to say on that.
That's one thing I read into as I thought back on it, as other boring things were happening in the movie. I was thinking, like, was he trying to outsmart the knight there? Because he was like, any blow delivered to me, get back to you, and he was like, I'll just kill him then. He won't. Then I can't fulfill the challenge, and I just win, and I get to keep his axe.
Yeah,
I think,
like, checkmate, bro.
yeah, that's how I read that. Like, he was trying to outsmart.
I wish he'd said checkmate, bro.
That would have given him some
I could
sort
see
of
real Dev
personality.
Patel doing that in that situation. In character, that wouldn't make sense.
There's a blooper where he says that. I'm sure there is now.
I bet.
I'm
I
99% sure.
That would have given him personality, though. I'll say that much.
If we knew what his, like, overarching flaw was, and that kept getting repeated, or it came up a bit more in the other scenes, that might help a bit. Because we do hear, like, I think the most we learn about him is when he's talking to King Arthur in that scene. Well, okay, maybe bring up your scene too, because maybe there's more to it. I was thinking in the scene he's talking to King Arthur right before the Green Knight shows up, they indicate how he's untested. He says, I don't have any stories to tell. I haven't really done anything knightly. So that's something we know about him. But then otherwise, like, that's not a flaw in itself. It's just
not a
young.
personality trait. It's not a character decision. It's not anything.
Yeah, it's something.
It's backstory. It's a bullet point in his backstory.
Yeah, and if this was more... It's also, like, Dev Patel is not that young. Like, if this was a coming-of-age thing, if he was 16, it might be a little bit more fitting to have him be a little bit scattered.
Come to think of
he looks like he's about 30 in this.
In the movie, he would have been around 30.
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly...
He's like 30,
got a full
he's 35
beard.
right now.
He's obviously full grown. So, like, he's not...
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he's... You know, and you might be able to take, like, a man-child angle with him, but he's not... They're not playing into, like, Seth Rogen characters, or even, like, Scott Pilgrim, I think, is another character who, like, what exactly is his specific flaw? It's a little hard to tell, but he's younger and, like, is a little bit just, like, coded as a little bit of this, like, slacker kind of person in a way that Gawain isn't. But I think that would have helped frame it, is kind of what I'm saying. Just to... Because you talked about symbolism as, like, part of the title of your topic, and I think there is a lot in here that you're meant to read symbolically. And to be honest, I can't really assign a lot of meaning to it. I heard some people in the podcast I listened to assign some meaning to stuff, and I was like, oh, that's a cool reading, but I mean, hell, I didn't think of that. Like, while I was watching it, like, that's not obvious to me. Again,
that was me reading Angel's notes. I was like, oh, damn it. I can't believe I didn't see that. That's not how I read it, but okay.
Yeah,
Good.
and like you did that with Nope, but also Nope I think is a movie that you're a lot more likely to go, and I'm not just saying you personally, but like anyone, there like it's more broadly appealing. There's like it's fun the first time and then you're like, "Oh, that's a cool thing on rewatch." So, something I feel like there's two major ways to like do a symbol, like a big loud symbol in your story. One is, and I think this is kind of the better one, to take something that has an actual function in the plot, but is indicative of something larger. So, the top in Inception has a plot function, but is also symbolic of something else, as is the train that comes through, or all of the trains in Inception. In this movie, I think you kind of have something like that with the belt. It's meant to protect him, so like there's a plot function, there's like he has it for a like physical plot reason. But because of that, anytime we see him wearing it or like have it shown, we kind of know what it means. When we're doing that whole vision at the end of his future, he's always got the belt on, and we know that it means that he's just going to be afraid of death forever because that meaning has kind of been assigned. And then he takes it off at the very end, showing that he is accepting death. So I feel like that's a place where like you have a pretty clear symbol. The other way I think you can do it is something that maybe doesn't have a plot function, but is introduced in a way that just announces itself as a symbol. So the deer in Get Out would be an example of this. We just have it there, and it's sort of this side thing.
I still don't know what it meant. I don't remember what that meant. I'm sorry.
I think we got into it a bit on the episode we did of that, but like it's something I think I brought it up. I was like, what is this? Because it's very clearly here to be symbolic, but I don't get it. Same with, I think this is a little clearer one, the rock in Parasite. Why is the rock introduced? Because it's a symbol. And I feel like that's fairly
the
clear.
actor?
No, the like physical rock in
If The Rock was in Parasite,
Dwayne Johnson shows up in
Parasite. I wouldn't know what to do.
Wait, I don't remember a rock and Parasite. Why am I not remembering that?
the one that the tutor guy brings at the very beginning.
The big, it's like a trophy. Like it's framed almost like a trophy almost. Right?
I do not
What is The
remember
Rock
Parasite.
actually in
Oh my
that
God.
film? I haven't seen it in a while. I don't remember what The Rock actually was.
I haven't seen it in a while either, but it's just something that I feel like is announced as a symbol from
absolutely.
Jump. A lot of times colors will do this. Like there's kind of it's kind of closer to like the 10th grade English version of it. I had to read this book in high school called How to Read English Like a Professor, and I feel like this is a movie that it would go off with because the whole book was just like, it wasn't a fictional book. It was just like, all right, each chapter we're going to talk about like what does it mean when it rains in a story. Here's what it means when it rains basically every time. That is basically the antithesis of what you're saying in this rant.
That's what this movie feels like. It feels like an essay that doesn't know what it's doing and has no direction, but is trying to fill a word count. That's what that feels like.
Well, I think it's rife for that kind of essay at the very least. Like, it's the kind of thing where you read like a story in English class. That book ends with this little short story. It's been like almost a decade since I read it, but I think it ends with this little short story about like a girl goes down a hill and back up a hill. I don't remember what the fuck it was about, but at the end it was like, okay, so now let's break down all the symbols, because the story doesn't, like, nothing really happens in it, but it's like, okay, here's all these symbols and it means all these things. And I kind of reacted the way you did. I was like, cool, nothing happened. Like,
It sounds almost
now
like an
I need
expo of
this
symbols
textbook.
so that you could learn how to read symbols. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
it's like so now I have to do Morse code with like a color wheel, and like every time yellow comes up, it means this. And you even have like a monologue about the color green in this movie. Ultimately, I feel like it kind of like, well, green can mean a lot of things. And one thing that I feel like, if you're going to take a symbolic meaning of the word green here, Gawain is a green knight. Green means like untested or like young and
Did you know
experienced.
Gawain, that in Old English, that means green?
Does it?
No, I made that up.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought you did. I
I don't know what
believed you
kind of...
for a second, but I'm like, wait a second.
I was
He
like,
wouldn't have looked that up.
I was 50-50 there. I was like, is he just messing with it? Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have looked that up. I don't care.
There's that kind of thing all the time in stories where a character has a very symbolic name. When that is your whole basis for something, again, this is why I hated Eraserhead. Like, I was like, okay, all of this is symbolic of something, but you never had a normal moment to, like, anchor me. And I think there is a bit to anchor you here. At the same time, all of Act 2 feels like, here's a bunch of symbols that you can read into, but I'm not really going to give you much to work with. So there's a lot of interpretations you can take, which I think is kind of fun in its own way. And that's kind of why I enjoy rewatching it. I also feel like it's not always the smartest approach.
It feels like an unordered race in Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. Y'all don't know what that is, probably. But there's this racing game. There's this racing game. It's how some racing games normally go. You go, you drive, you have a starting point, you drive, you hit the checkpoints direct you to the next checkpoint. That's how the whole thing goes. There are certain races in that game called unordered races where there are checkpoints all around this city map. It's made by Rockstar, GTA people.
Okay.
Checkpoints all around the city map. Go. It doesn't give you any sort of direction on where to start. Sometimes it's best to follow the AI for a bit and then find your own shortcuts throughout the city and beat them to the finish line. Like, that's what it feels like it's too open. There's too many... I'm sorry, I forgot.
But you made it sound so fun, so I'm a little confused.
It's a very fun game. It's one of my favorite games.
I think I follow you there. Like, like Act 1 feels like... Because I can almost picture that with, like, Act 1 and Act 3. I feel like Act 1, you get a little bit of runway. It's like, all right, here's some stuff to start you out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to get to Act 3 because we all know, like, what the end point is.
Right.
We're very specific. He's got to get to the Green Chapel. So we have, like, a little map of Act 1 and, like, we have a destination point at Act 3. And then Act 2 is just blank. And we got to, like, run all around it to try to find the entrance to Act 3. Like, we as the audience have to do that.
Are you saying it's almost like he, like, knew he had this big bridge in the middle and he just dropped a bunch of random obstacles in there? Like, in the middle, is that kind of what you're saying?
Me or Evan?
Yes, you.
Oh.
Yeah. Kind of, because, like, I could kind of see that interpretation a little bit. Like, it feels like I need, like, this amount of obstacles, so I'm just gonna, like, come up with something.
Maybe. I was never, like... Which I'm surprised, because normally I do state that. Normally I am paying attention to it. But I was never just, like, get to the end. I was just there wondering from scene to scene, okay, why are we here? No, I think once they got to the castle, it was like, okay, this movie still has, like, 40 minutes to go.
Well, I think the thing is, when you get to the castle, they kind of very much say, like, oh, you're almost at the end. So you know this is going to kind of be the last leg of the journey. So you're kind of waiting for it to get to that third act part, where you're waiting for it to get to, because they've explicitly stated, like, oh, it's right there. It's literally, like, down the street. You just got to go that way.
He's got to, and it's December 21st, so you've got a couple days. Yeah. You can just hang out for a little bit.
And he's like, are you sure? Are you sure it's that, like, do I have to? And they're like, yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. I think Act 2 is the part of this movie that is easiest to criticize, and I don't quite know what he's going for. And maybe he does. Like, I don't want to say that there's a lack of intention, because I think there is stuff to dig into, but I'm not at all surprised that you are alienated by it, because it does feel like just a blank page to be like, here you go. Like, impose meaning onto this, and I'm not really going to give you any handholds to it. It's
it feels like a do-it-yourself book.
Like, you gotta make the puzzle yourself instead of putting it together.
It feels like a do-it-yourself book.
Yeah, like one of those pick your path books.
Wait, real quick. Was the Lord's Queen that he smashes and Essel two different actresses? Because they looked really similar.
No, they're the same actress. They're both the same. They're the same actress.
That tripped me out the first time,
I think that is meant to be symbolic, but I've never really pinned down exactly what it's supposed to mean, other than maybe Like he kind of sees not even all women as the same, but like that he's not like differentiating them. Does that make sense? Like almost like they're a symbol of his desire.
I kind of was wondering the same thing you were, like, okay, they're played by the same actor, so is this saying something about how Gawain views women? But there's nothing really set up for that, and it doesn't seem like they're contrasting each other. And then we also have Winifred, who's played by somebody else, so that kind of falls off there too. Or does he just have a type, and his type is Alicia Vikander, which is relatable. But...
Everyone's type is Alicia.
I didn't know she was Tomb Raider, and
Yeah, she is. No, she's just a wonderful actress. I love her. She's just really
yeah,
talented.
I don't mind having her in two different roles. She does well in both of them, and
No,
plays
but
them
the
very
whole thing,
differently.
what we're trying to get
But
to, there's
like, what
clearly
is
a
that?
reason.
Yeah, it's kind of announcing itself as symbolic, but it's like,
Ex Machina.
okay, yeah, Ex Machina, she's great. What were you gonna say, Angel?
This was my reading of it. Like, I don't even think this is something I heard anywhere. Like, this is kind of my reading of it, that it's like, essentially, they're both meant to be like symbols of his desire. And I want to get into this a little more once we do jump into my topic, because it's kind of where I acknowledge that the film falters a little bit in its setup. So my topic is essentially, I think this is a good way, like how to write a character that's sort of weighed down by expectation. And there's like multiple expectations. There's like the expectation from his family, from society, from himself especially. Like he puts a lot of stuff on himself in a way that I think a lot of people do. And I think that's a lot of how we can kind of get into his flaw. To kind of bridge this, I do want to acknowledge that there is a way that I think his setup could have been done a little better. And I noticed it this time because as I was watching it, I had honestly it had not clicked in my head. Because I know who Gawain is. I know that he's Arthur's nephew and that, like, Morgan's his mom and, like, you know, they're related or whatever. Like, I knew all this because I
Wait,
know
his
a
mom
lot
is
of Arthurian.
Morgan?
Not Morgan. Morgan Le Fay. Like
Yeah, that's what I.
yeah,
That's
yeah. That's his mom. That's his mom, Arthur's sister. That's why Arthur's his uncle. But one thing that it didn't click for me until I think I got to like the ending sequence is like technically Gawain is supposed to be the heir to Camelot. He's supposed to be the next in line for the throne because he's the only one related to Arthur. Like, he is technically in line to become king, but it's not set up as that because it's made very clear that him and Arthur are not close. They don't know each other very well for not really any good reason.
he's just like, hey, I wasn't there early in your life. My fault, little bro.
I wish that we'd hung out more, nephew,
Yeah.
and we didn't. And I think that's fine to, like, set up that first scene, but then if you think about it in the grand scheme, it does make certain elements of it kind of not make sense later because technically Gawain would be the heir to the throne because Arthur and Guinevere clearly don't have any kids. Like they make it very clear that they're older and they never had any children. So like somebody has to inherit the throne. It's gonna have to be Gawain. Like as far as I can tell, there's nobody else. And if there was somebody else, they needed to establish that.
I thought he was living in a brothel at the beginning of this movie.
No.
I think
I mean,
he
he
is in a brothel, but he probably doesn't
He
live
is in
there.
a brothel. He might as well be living there because he's there every night. That's kind of something they state.
I think that's the implication.
I think that's part of where there's a little bit of a flaw in his setup, and I'm gonna get into more positives as I go. But like, I will say this.
No,
This
don't.
This is why I think that maybe certain elements are not hitting the way that is intended because they kind of want. I think they want us to see him as kind of a dick, like kind of this like snotty rich kid who's a little bit of like a brat, but he doesn't come off that way for a multitude of reasons. One of which is he's not really like outwardly rude or like uses his privilege or anything towards anybody at the beginning of the film. He seems very like relatively polite. He seems like a normal, semi-harmless guy.
Because he doesn't have a personality.
Maybe. Also, he's played by Dev Patel. And I know,
That helps.
and I think this is actually something that I heard the director state, like, the other day when I was watching something about this, where it's like, casting him, he's a very charismatic actor. He comes off as very, like, sweet and genuine in his performances. So, it's an easy way to make an unlikable character likable. But because it's Dev Patel, in a way, Dev Patel makes the character a little too harmless seeming for the harmful personality they're going for.
Happened in Last Airbender. I don't think that was his fault though.
Was that no, definitely not. Definitely not. Like they go a little too far into that, and I think it makes it come like it's almost like he seems more harmless than I think they needed him to for us to understand the lessons that they're going for. And so yeah, I acknowledge I think that is a little bit of a flaw in the setup because he doesn't I keep hearing people talk about how he's a little bit of a brat, he's a little bit of like, privilege, and you see that more later in the story as he kind of tries to weasel his way out of things, but you don't get that feeling at the beginning of the story at all. At least I didn't.
Give me a trait that he has other than nice.
I thought you said treat. I don't have any of those.
No.
Well, I can give you.
That's fair.
I can give you his.
Aside from like young and untested, he's a little bit blank slate.
I can give you his character flaw, which is unfortunately a little bit of like a very broad thing, which is insecurity. The fact is he's an incredibly insecure individual, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that he is heir to the throne, which is not at the forefront enough for it to really feel like it matters too much. But the fact is he wants to be a knight, he wants to feel like he's living up to all this honor and virtue, but because he doesn't really feel like he can, he spends all of his nights drinking and, partying and stuff like that. He keeps himself as far away from all that as possible because he doesn't feel like he can live up to it. You can see it when he's talking to Arthur. This is his uncle. This is somebody he should know really well, and he doesn't. He's so nervous that he doesn't even feel like he's worthy to sit with them, even though it's his family. Like, it's his uncle. It's weird that they're not even remotely close enough that he is this nervous, even though this guy is the king. You know what I mean?
They could have spent so much more time on that.
They really could have. That could have been a whole movie in and of itself.
Really?
Because he feels so inadequate, he's almost hiding behind those feelings of inadequacy by doing all this partying, all this drinking, and that's why his mom calls the Green Knight in the first place, is to kind of get him out of that hole and get him
You need to get out the house.
Yeah, get out of the house.
It does feel a little bit like that.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely
like go get a job or something. Go to school.
Yeah,
like, that is kind of the implication.
The problem is the Green Knight shows up and he overcompensates because he thinks that, he's read a few too many night stories, probably, where he's like, well, this is a big monster. I have to stop the big monster, which is also kind of a weird thing. I think that's a societal thing in Camelot, because if you notice, when the Green Knight comes in, he's not being all that aggressive. He just walks into the room, but the whole energy of the room changes. He's just big and on a horse, but he's not doing anything aggressive. Everybody immediately pulls their swords. They get
he barges
all
in
angry.
into
he
the
barges
king's
in, but he doesn't break down the door. He just opens the door. Even Arthur looks kind of like, oh, this is a bad guy, just because he's not from here. And I'm like, that's a little messed up. And because that energy's already in the room. I feel like
if a bear came into the room, you'd do the same thing.
Yeah, if a bear
know if he's sentient.
I don't know.
He's clearly not human. Once he speaks, you maybe back off a little, but I would be scared too.
I'd be scared if any. Well, the king is in there, and some random guy knight they've never seen before is entering, calmly or not.
It could be an assassination attempt. I think it's fair to. And he's armed. He is armed.
He is armed. Yeah.
I think
maybe it's
and they don't attack him, but they're like, hey, keep your distance a little bit. I hesitate to bring this movie up for spoilers, but there's another protagonist that he reminds me of a little bit. Jelani, I don't think you've seen this, but Angel, I think you've seen Looper, right?
Yes, I've seen Looper.
I get that confused with Jumper. No, I didn't see Looper.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in Looper, because he's also he's a little more active with it. I think the setup with him is a little bit clearer, where he's not weighed down by expectations like you're talking about. So I'm sorry to deviate from the topic, but he's also kind of a character that's not really a good dude and is living very selfishly and not with a whole lot of purpose or vision for where he wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do a pretty good job setting that up. And I don't want to get too much further into that to not spoil Looper, especially because I might cover it someday on here. I just think that's like a little bit of a contrast where I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt as an actor, but they make him a lot less charming in that. Whereas like he's kind of scowling a lot, and he's a little more actively like mean to people. So they don't set him up as somebody who you really want to root for as much. I'm just saying it's a different approach they could have taken with constructing Gawain, or casting wise. Like, imagine somebody less likable playing this. It changes a lot. I think casting Dev Patel is very good for getting us on his side. Imagine if Shia LaBeouf played like Gawain. Sorry for that image, but that changes a lot out the gate, because he's a lot better at playing somebody unlikable. And Dev Patel, just like when he smiles, it's just like, oh, like look at him.
I need that cut now. I'm sorry.
He's adorable.
I need the Green Knight Shia LaBeouf cut now.
Shia
I
LaBeouf could play this part, but we would not like him as much.
It would be much weirder.
Here's a fun test.
And I like Shia LaBeouf movies. It would be much weirder.
Here's a fun test. Let's put Gawain into a situation. Let's say he's at school and he's trying to talk his way out of taking a test. If you don't have any direction as to how he would go about it, you have a character issue. Let's say he's trying to sweet talk a car salesman into lowering the price on his car or his horse, whatever the hell. If you don't have a direction...
Are we still in Camelot?
Not anymore. We're in Carlot.
I think that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But I think all of this factors in, like, you can make a character a little bit more blank if they're younger. Your personality's not really solidified when you're 15.
No, it doesn't have to be like a YA novel or like stereotypical hero's journey, because it clearly isn't. But if we're going to spend the whole movie with this guy, feel bad for him, or if I don't even know if that was the intent, to feel bad for him. I don't know, because the movie doesn't give you one way or the other about it.
You're saying he's not characterized well.
Yes.
Like if we can imagine any, maybe let's take it back from an extreme like Shia LaBeouf, but like just imagine, I don't know, pick an actor for me.
Timothy Chalamet.
Okay, imagine Timothy Chalamet playing. Yeah, maybe that Angel dislikes him a little too much.
Oh, my fault.
Let's take somebody a little more. Okay, how about Miles Teller? Imagine Miles Teller.
I like Miles Teller. Yes, okay, I could see that,
because I feel like he's somebody who can play likable and can play not likable. Are we on his side as much? Your mileage may vary. I think I'm less so.
Compared to Dev Patel, probably not. But...
And I think that's something you can read into more, because I also heard the same thing you heard, Angel, where David Lowery was saying, like, Dev Patel is really charismatic and he's going to carry us through this movie. I agree. And maybe that shows the thinness of the writing a little bit.
It worked a little too well. Like, the personality that they're going for doesn't come through. Like, I think the way that he responds to the Green Knight's test is sort of the way that the movie kicks off, right? And it doesn't feel like he is that hot-headed early on. If anything, he feels a little too gentle just based on his interaction with Arthur. Like, it doesn't feel like a move that he would necessarily make. Yeah, or Essel, yeah, just like, it doesn't feel like a move that he would necessarily have made at that point. I kind of understand why, but you can even see him trying to convince himself. And that was something that I found interesting, was like, he's sort of like, why won't you fight me type thing. And he's walking around the room, he's got the axe, and he's kind of like, it's almost like he's talking to the whole room and to himself, saying like, look, he made it, he challenged me, I told him to fight, he said no, like, this is okay, the thing that I'm about to do. And then he goes to like the most extreme version of whatever, because I think that's what he thinks like a hero is supposed to do. Like, kind of like slay the monster. And obviously that turns out to be a mistake, because now in a year he's going to get his head chopped off, when any smart person would have, I don't know, put down the axe, or maybe cut him on the wrist a little bit. You know, something small, because it's like, well, worst case scenario, this is a magic thing, clearly. Worst case scenario, I look a little dumb, but I'm alive, if I can't kill this thing.
Seeing something like that, I would assume it could put his head back on.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that would have been my assumption too. I've also watched a lot of fantasy movies. Maybe Godwin hasn't, but in my head, I would have been like, it's a giant tree man. I don't think that I would risk the most aggressive option when I've never fought anybody before. Because he said he's not a knight. He has no stories. He hasn't done anything yet. I would not have done that, but I can understand why he probably felt like that was the move that a knight would make. And I think that's kind of the point.
So I agree with you that like I think you're making a perfectly valid reading of that. I think those are all reasons that from a character perspective he would do that, like those are flaws that would lead to it. So I'm fine with that reading. I also don't think there's anything to really textually support that. And I think
Well,
maybe
that's the
that's
whole
something
thing.
that's missing is like I kind of hate to point to this book in a positive way, but when Blake Snyder says save the cat, what he's talking about is a moment like we actually had a off-air text discussion about this with the MCU last week. About like characterizing moments for characters like Captain America jumping on the grenade. That doesn't matter to the plot. That is just there to tell us here's who this character is. And
Exactly.
I think you could have done him like decapitating the Green Knight in a way. I think that on paper that counts as like showing his flaw, but it's not quite clear why he's doing it. So I think we might have needed one
Yeah,
moment before
exactly.
that to show like this is his flaw, and then we can when he does decapitate the Green Knight, we understand, okay, this is who he is and this is the flaw that's like making him do that.
There's nothing to show this level of recklessness yet.
Well, I can't even tell if it's recklessness because I think you can also interpret it as other flaws. One, is he just that dumb? Like, is he just
Because
that
we
dumb,
don't.
or is he like trying to prove like, okay, the way to like be a knight is to show dominance, so that's what I'm gonna do. Like, what virtue is he
Yeah,
trying to like show, and what flaw is he actually exhibiting?
Because we don't know anything about him.
Yeah, and I think maybe we needed a moment before to tell us. Or it could have at least been useful.
maybe that's what we need. Maybe we needed a moment where he is in a situation where he feels like dominance was the answer to him feeling inadequate in another situation. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, not necessarily another hand-holding moment. Like, I think clearly we're still interpreting it this way, but we're also acknowledging that there's nothing there that really sets him up as that person until this happens. You know what I mean?
It could have even been done in the performance. Like, again,
Yeah,
sorry to do this again, but imagine Shia LaBeouf doing this. Like, Shia LaBeouf plays characters in a way a lot of times. Like, if you typecast Shia LaBeouf, he would go around holding the axe, being like, all right, remember who won today, guys. Okay? See? You see? Ugh! Like, that's how he would play it, and you see what the flaw is there. As much as I like Dev Patel and his performance in this movie, I don't think he plays it in a way that is like that kind of bravado where you can see why he's doing it.
Also,
yeah.
should we care about him as a character? Like, are we supposed to feel bad because we thought he was doing the smart or a dumb thing by decapitating the knight? I'm not saying the movie should tell us, but personally, I didn't know whether or not we were supposed to care about him. I would assume yes, because we're spending the movie with him.
But you do have to assume.
Well, he's the main
But
character, so technically, yes.
yeah, so why would anybody care about him though? Because he's supposed to die because of his own decision? Like, what do they give us about him that is supposed to make us care about him other than he's the main character and we're spending the whole movie with him?
Very fair.
We meet his girlfriend, we meet his mom, we meet his uncle. Like, I understand what you're saying though. Like it's very true. Like it, other than this particular situation, it's like there's nothing else about him that's like this is why we care that, in a year he's going to get his head chopped off, clearly. He feels a little too blank up until the situation happens. And there's not really a character defining moment before that to make us care before he does the dumb thing.
There's no before the bite.
There's no before the bite.
We kind of need to care before the bite. We kind of need to. He doesn't even need like a save the cat moment necessarily. He just needs a moment that defines who he is and why we can empathize with him. You know what I mean? And I think this is what that was kind of meant to be. Because I think most people, if not everyone, can empathize with some feelings of inadequacy, of feeling like they're not living up to expectations, things like that. Again, that's the whole point. That's why he does something as simple and relatable as, even when they skip the year, right? You'd think like, oh, over the course of the year, he's being celebrated as this hero. But nothing has changed. He doesn't feel more fulfilled. If anything, he feels worse than he ever has. Because now he's got this, literally an axe hanging over his head.
Yeah.
And he's continuing the same behavior over and over again. The only thing that really changes is that people know who he is now. And maybe they buy him drinks, and he gets a painting of himself. But they skip that year because during that year there's been no status quo change, and the only thing that's really
At
happening
least that's
by
what
the
we're meant
next
to
year,
assume by them skipping that year.
exactly. And honestly, everything else in it has kind of essentially, from what I can gather, that's just what happens. And even then, like, if anything, he may have even dove deeper into it, which is why Arthur came to see him in the first place. And was like, hey, you should go see the knight that's going to cut your head off. And he's like, but what if he kills me? Like, Uncle, what if he kills me? He's like, well, that it is what it
Kind of
is.
on
I don't
you.
know.
It is
You
what
kind
it
of have
is,
to.
man.
You kind of have to. And that goes into a theme here that I actually do like and I think is interesting, is the idea of, like, they kind of put this code of honor on themselves for its own sake, as opposed to there being any real moral reasoning, like, even a practical moral reason behind any of it. He's supposed to go because he agreed to this game. But if you think about it, he's going to go to his own death for a game that he didn't fully understand. Yes, he made the dumb decision of going into it without trying to understand it, and he missed some very obvious clues. Like the fact that the knight opened himself up like this, and he literally handed the axe over, should have been a hint that aggression was not the move, right? But he went into it not really understanding because it's like a magical, ambiguous test or whatever. And so he went into it not really having the full picture, but now he kind of has to deal with the consequences of that. And that just, it kind of sucks, And it always feels to me when they're telling him, oh, you need to go do this, that it's literally for the sake of this code as opposed to like any real reason. And Essel, who is Alicia Vikander's character, his girlfriend, points that out. She's like, why do you need to go and be great when we could stay here and build life together? Essentially, he's giving up, a chance at like life because he has to go and like be a knight, basically, which is why he made this decision to cut the knight's head off in the first place. You know what I mean?
I have another question. What about, other than it was written in the poem, what about it makes it to where it has to be him we're following? This could have been any other, like, everybody can relate to feelings of inadequacy. Cool. This could have been a peasant from the kingdom. This could have been anyone
This could have been
knights
Alicia Vikander's character.
This could have been Essel. Yeah, it could have
Yeah.
been, like, what about it makes it to where it had to be him we were following? And I think that's still along the lines of the whole personality thing. Why should we care? That whole type of thing. But you got an answer for that?
I had a theory on it that kind of goes into the ending a little bit. And I think that, again, it comes to that thing that I think was not set up very well, was the fact that he's like the heir to the throne. Like, he happens to be in a position where whatever his decision is, they can show it affecting they can show it on a big, grand scale, because they make like we're going a little bit into the ending stuff here, but in that ending sequence, they show this is what happens if he continues to be a coward, and then he's given all of this power. You know, he's basically like he is capable of making the world around him collapse, essentially, and that's like the danger of it.
He's almost failing upwards. Like his,
Exactly.
if you track it with the fake ending, if we want to call it that, like between that and everything that was shown that's real up to that point, he's just like a rich kid failing upwards.
So
Basically,
is that why I don't? Are y'all trust fund kids? Because I can't relate to.
I'm not saying I
No,
like
that's
relate
maybe
to it
like
more. I think that's how he's
that's the part I
characterized.
can't relate to because I'm not a trust fund kid either. But I can relate to the idea of like the whole expectations weighing you down thing. I can understand that part. I think
Yeah,
it's
who
again
can't?
the kind of consequences that they build up from that is the less relatable part because again he is technically the heir to a kingdom which I don't think any of us are.
Also, why does he keep reminding him it's a game if he wants him to go out there and get his head chopped off?
Well, I think it's the chivalric code thing. Like it's because knighthood, because this is what we do. We like keep our promises.
Hey,
It's the
nephew,
code
follow
we
the
set
rules.
for
Hey,
ourselves.
listen, it's just a game, nephew, but make sure you follow the rules and go die. What?
Yeah, well, I think I interpreted the first time he said that as don't cut his head off, essentially. Don't do the dumb thing that you're thinking about doing because it legitimately is just a game. If you take it too seriously, it's going to be dangerous for you. Like if you take it seriously to the point where you murder this man tree thing, it's going to be bad. The whole point is like keeping the code between the two of you type thing, keeping that honor between the two of you. But it's not about conquering the other person in the situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would
That's
have
how I
been
interpreted it.
that would have been nice to know a little more clear because we didn't know Arthur as a person either.
Oh yeah, that's very true. And then if anything, the next scene where he's like, the game is not complete, it doesn't contradict it, but it kind of takes it in a different direction. That's more of like you made your bed, now you have to sleep in it.
I think a thing that's coming up across like a lot of this is we're Angel, you're presenting a lot of like interpretations of this that are, I think, perfectly fine, but we don't know if David Lowery is saying that. Like, and that's why Jelani's asking all of these
Oh, that's
questions.
fair. No, that's totally fair. And he's leaving it ambiguous on purpose.
Yeah, I think it is, and maybe it's too much. Maybe it's too ambiguous. It's a little of both. That's kind of back to the last topic. That's just been a very recurring thing. Over this, I hope the audience is validated on both sides by that, because I think both reactions are valid. I kind of take Angel's side a little bit more with this personally, just because I do enjoy it more.
But I think we both acknowledge Jelani's side too.
Yeah,
Jelani, you're not wrong. Like there's
I know.
all of these flaws that you're saying are all of these flaws that you're pointing out are perfectly valid. They're perfectly valid thing. And if anything, like it's made me slightly more critical of like how this is executed. I still really like this movie. I'm still keeping my 4.5 stars rating.
yeah. I'm
Like
keeping my 4.
because all of the things that landed for me, they're still landing perfectly fine. But I think it's because I also acknowledge like it's because I did all of this other reading outside of it. I was interested enough to do all of this other research. Also, I do think that to an extent this is asking you to know a little bit about Arthurian lore
Yeah, I
because
didn't
like
know that much.
You didn't know that it was Arthur. I did because I know a little bit about King Arthur
I know about
already.
Excalibur and yeah, Sword and Stone.
Maybe a little bit of a strange comparison, but I think it's doing a little bit of what the Matt Reeves Robert Pattinson Batman movie does, where it's kind of assuming that you've
That you
seen
know
a
Batman a little
Batman
bit.
movie at some point. We already had Batman Begins. We already had Sword in the Stone or Monty Python or take your pick, Clive Owen, that one.
Oh boy.
We've had King Arthur in a lot of different iterations. It shows you the round table. Gawain isn't somebody that I think at least American audiences can be expected to know as much about. But
Yeah.
the Matt Reeves Batman movie also doesn't do an origin story. It's like, all right, you guys know who Batman is. We're not really going to tell you why he's fighting crime like this because Batman Begins exists. and we don't even have to tell you how his parents died. You already know. I think it's kind of trading in that a little bit, but in both cases, you get a little bit of thin character work because it's just assuming that we know who this is. And that can be a bit of a problem.
It's not holding your hand context-wise, and I think that's mostly fine.
Well, it's skipping some of the usual Act 1 moments that would characterize them, or tell us about, like, you're saying all this stuff about the, like, code of chivalry that's there. I think that's something that we all, maybe not everyone, but you can expect at least some of your audience to know that, like, yeah, knights are meant to be noble and chivalrous. There's nothing in the text of the movie to set up that value system in the world.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about it last episode with Mulan. We have a song that sets up, here's the values of this world. It wouldn't have taken them long to do that here.
They should have done a song.
Yeah.
I mean, Mulan was 90 minutes. Actually, a song probably would have fit.
I mean, he's got to get dressed up to go to Christmas Mass. His mom could have, brought him down to the people next door to do his makeup and stuff.
Where's my 3-hour Green Knight cut with singing?
I don't know if I'd be doing this episode if this was 3 hours.
No. I don't know if I would either, honestly. Or at least I wouldn't have had it. I wouldn't have picked it if Angel hadn't, if it was 3 hours.
I think the myth thing you were saying, I think that's probably part of it, because I don't know much about Arthurian mythology.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. You shouldn't have to do homework. I would say there's probably more people that know the details in the modern day about Batman than they know about Arthurian legend. Partially because Arthurian legend has a lot of different versions, a lot of different interpretations. A lot of people know the absolute basics, and that's fine.
They know the sword and the stone. They know Excalibur.
Compare that to, like, knowing about Greek mythology. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even that, there's a lot of little details in there that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people know, like, not even surface level stuff, but, like, they know certain details about, like, specific things. But there's, like, specific stories you may not necessarily know unless you're doing the research. This is a little bit, I think maybe there was a little more faith that people knew a lot about King Arthur stuff.
So, in that, you still got work to do. Why are we seeing your version of this tale, this poem?
I think he makes a valid case for that. I think he puts his own spin on it. It's not like he just does a straight down the middle King Arthur story. But I think you still need to give us a reason to care, if it's a side character especially. Because this is kind of a side character.
That's like making a microwave meal, adding salt to it, and saying, I put my own spin on it.
I think he does a lot more than add salt to it. From what I've heard about what he did to the legend, like, and also, I think part of the problem is, like, maybe that's not a safe assumption for him to make. That, like, because King Arthur, I think a lot of people know him. His nephew, I don't know anything about Sir Gawain from Arthurian legend. Like, I've seen a couple of the movies. I've read, I think, one, like, abridged book as a kid. I don't remember a single thing about him.
It's like making a movie centered around Damian Wayne, Batman's son.
Yeah. You need to tell most people who Damian Wayne is. I don't know who Damian Wayne is, personally. I don't think my next-door neighbors know who Damian Wayne is. They know who Batman is. So you can do that with Batman. But you can't, and you can maybe, like, my next door neighbors will know who King Arthur is. They couldn't tell you anything about Sir Gawain.
Never heard this name before this movie. So
I'd heard it, but I couldn't have differentiated him from the other ones.
I know Lancelot.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you never like see him in any of these adaptations either. Like, you take something like let's take a random one like Merlin. He's not in Merlin, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Morgan is, Guinevere is, all of these people are, but, like, he's not in those things. He's not.
And Merlin's also an archetype that's been repeated. Like, people, if you don't know Merlin, you know Gandalf or you know Dumbledore, who are just different versions of Merlin.
You know the Merlin type, at the very least. And even then, like, Merlin's even in this, and they don't do anything with him, which is okay.
Where?
Like, they just have him there.
He's in, like, one shot.
With the beard. He's the guy with the beard. He's got a big beard. He looks like Gandalf.
He shows up in like one shot in the
Yeah.
beginning, I think, and that's it. I don't think he even says anything. Maybe he has one line.
No, I don't even think he has a line. I don't think that he does. Sadly, that's more scenes than he has than in the Legend of the Sword King Arthur movie, because they replace him with somebody else.
I'll have to
Um,
put that on as background noise someday.
that'd be a fun watch along, honestly.
Merlin is in The Last Night.
Maybe. Gods of Sussel.
God, I'm so
Where Stanley Tucci also played a character in Transformers 4, just like Alicia
The Pill.
Vikander.
And then he's Merlin.
So Michael Bay's type is Stanley Tucci, or the Transformers. Optimus Prime has a type, and it's Stanley Tucci.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Where's that episode?
Why isn't Stanley
Where's-
Tucci in this movie?
Yeah. Why is it Shia LaBeouf in this movie? Shia LaBeouf should be King Arthur.
That'd be pretty sick, honestly. I'd watch that.
I don't mind Sean Harris as King Arthur. He's the bad guy in Mission Impossible 5. Which
Cool.
is most
Oh,
of what
okay.
I know him from. I've been looking at his face a lot in editing the Mission Impossible video I've been working on.
That was just me the whole movie, though. Like, Dev Patel wasn't charismatic enough for me.
Too bad.
I get that.
Just, I don't think I've seen him in enough either.
I've seen him in some other stuff, so I might have had a little more runway. I really like him in The Newsroom, and
He's good in the newsroom. He really, really is.
I
But
started
I mean, so
Monkey
is
Man.
so is everybody.
I didn't finish
Yeah.
Monkey Man.
Oh, I like
Monkey Man is
a lot.
great. Monkey Man is great.
I'm only like a quarter of the way through it. I was watching it on
I want to
the plane.
watch. I want to watch Lion. I heard he's really good in that.
So my topic is the ending, and this is always what has stood out to me about this movie. Like, I think I gave it a couple years between the first time watching it and the second, and most of what I remembered was the end. So this is a movie I've wanted to bring up on other episodes, but I haven't done it because of spoilers. I know I wanted to mention it on Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and probably on Drag Me to Hell. The flash forward of the possible future, Jelana, you were railing against that. I often am not a fan of that. I really like it here.
It's actually great in Twilight.
No comment on that, because I haven't seen it. But I really like it, and I like how long it is. I like the filmmaking, and how Dev Patel's performance combined with that does a really good job of conveying like how empty his future would be. And then the two scenes, basically, at the Green Castle. The simplicity of their exchange is so good when he says, "Is this really all there is? What else ought there be?"
What are you, some kind of Green Knight? I would have enhanced. I would have 10 out of 10 movie if
I
you
would
would
have
have said
left.
that.
I would have walked out the theater. And like the way he cowers away, I don't know. Dev Patel is so good in that scene. I watched that scene on YouTube like a month ago, and I saw a comment, or maybe it was a Letterboxd review. I don't remember, but it read the ending as the Green Knight letting Gawain go, and I was like, oh, wait, you can read it that way? Because I've always felt like it was a pretty strong implication that he dies, but technically we don't see it. And I found out,
Yeah.
actually, he doesn't die in the original poem. He gets sent
Top
home.
is still spinning.
He gets a
Well-
nick on the neck, and that's it.
I was thinking about the top at the end of Inception. Like, you can interpret it either way, and like I think this is an ending that works like that. I prefer to assume that he's dead for 4 different reasons. One, we have Puss in Boots and Dead Man's Chest as examples of stories with like an impending death force where the protagonist does actually escape. This is a more adult version, and I feel like that kind of calls for, like, yeah, in the kids' version, sure, let Puss in Boots live, let Jack Sparrow come back in At World's End. For the R-rated version, have him die. Like, give us that version too. Second reason, it's what he signed up for. And I feel like it's kind of thematically resonant that, yes, he should deal with the consequences of... I know we were talking about, like, what is the flaw that leads to it. Whatever it is, I think it's fitting for him to deal with the consequences. 3, the Green Knight is tied to nature. And I feel like that kind of a being would stick to the rules that are laid out. He wouldn't let him get away. He would restore balance. You cut off my head? Okay. you didn't know I could survive that, but I'm going to cut off yours because that's what you did.
I wonder how different the movie would be if I'm smiling already because it's going to be stupid. If instead of an axe, he had a lantern.
Is that
Explain.
supposed to, as in the Green Lantern?
It's in the green.
Ryan Reynolds is the Green Knight.
We all know. No.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
buddy. See, you cut off my head. So that means
Your Ryan Reynolds is really good. How have you not done this before?
I don't know, because I don't like him very much. Sorry, buddy. Them's the breaks.
Did you wear your brown pants? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Continue, Evan. I cut you off.
That would be the button to it, though. Absolutely. Fourth reason, it is a good end to his arc, I think, if we want to say that he has an arc. I know we were kind of criticizing how his character is constructed, but I think this is still a good end to the arc. It's my favorite example of a protagonist dying at the end. A lot of times that doesn't work for me. I feel like it's often like a desperate attempt to make like the ending feel meaningful. I think it really works here because he hasn't proven himself to be honorable, even if like it's hard to tell what the meaning we're meant to take from all of those Act 2 side quests are. I think it is clear that he is not being especially honorable in them. But at the end, he can at least gain some kind of honor by accepting the consequences of his actions. And with the flash forward that we see, like, he will not be able to, like, hold his head up or, like, really feel fulfilled in the rest of his life if he runs away from this.
I caught that.
Cut
He
what?
won't be able to hold his head up.
Oh.
Because
Yeah.
Oh. Whoops. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even
I
think
assumed
of
you
that.
did that on purpose. I guess I was wrong.
Nope, Angel, I don't know how many you've been
I'm
here
just
for,
that
but
clever.
if we had a nickel for every time I did an accidental pun, we'd have more money than I think we've made off of any ad revenue or Patreon revenue. Which isn't to say that it's a lot, but there have been many accidental puns. Okay, maybe let me see if I can take that back.
I'm sorry.
With that, no,
it's there now.
Good catch. Oh, it's there now.
You can't retract it.
I mean, I can because editing. I do kind of want to take it back.
I'll tell everybody.
All of our fans. Yeah, that was kind of the end of my notes, though. It does combine to make this end where I'm like, yeah, he should die. I think that's a good ending. And that's rare that I feel that way because... And I'm not rooting for it, but I'm just like, yes, this feels right. This is the end of an arc.
That was gonna be my question. Like, should we care? Should we care that he's dying? Should we care that we don't know that he dies? Should we care and hope for him not to die?
I think if you're on the ride, it's a good ending. And again, there's many valid reasons that you did not get on the ride of this movie, but I
find that hilarious. This movie is so ambiguous, it didn't even give us a definitive ending.
Well, I don't know. I've always thought it was, like, until I read that, like, comment or review, I had always thought it was very strongly implied that he did die. I didn't even really consider that he was making it back home.
That's fully fair.
But textually, we don't actually know for sure. It doesn't show him getting decapitated. He just says, off with your head, credits.
And then he lets him run off.
Yeah, I like to think that he does get spared because the knight specifically stops with the axe to talk to him after that. And I've heard it can be interpreted like he's saying off with your head in a joking way. I like that because I like the idea that, like, listen, he made the right decision in the end. And at the very least, he will at least get to go home and maybe do something with that. That being said, I think that my interpretation of it is that it honestly doesn't matter if he's alive or he's not at the end. The whole point is the decision that he made. And that's part of the reason that I really like this ending sequence also, because it's kind of like what I was talking about before, how him being in the place where he's going to inherit this position of power when he goes home, which again is not super well set up, but once you know that it's going to happen, it makes the ending montage work. You get a very dramatic version of how if he leaves, if he runs away from this, it's just going to build on itself, and he's going to continue lying, continue being a coward, and eventually, like, you literally watch his entire world end around him because he is now in a position to do that. And because he did it with this one major decision, he's going to just keep doing it for the rest of his life. And one thing I forgot about that I really like is when he takes off the sash at the end of that sequence and his head falls off anyway. It's showing that he is going in the same direction, but if he doesn't face it now, all that's going to happen is he's going to destroy his life.
He's just going to suffer more,
and everyone else in his life is going to suffer too. Literally, his son. He has a son with Essel that he steals from her. He then marries a highborn lady because he thinks that's what he's supposed to do, and then that son dies in battle in a war that, in my opinion, I feel like he might have started. You know, that's just me, but I feel like he might have started whatever that war was.
He's fighting Spartans.
You know, whoever. Yeah.
Sorry.
See, I want to see that movie. I want to see that
Gerard
movie
Butler
now.
versus Dev Patel.
Oh, there's a movie where the main character dies.
Oh yeah. I guess they die in 300 too. I don't enjoy it as much though.
My thing is, I do like what you said, because I even gave an audible to it. With, it doesn't matter what the ending is. What matters is his decision. That's dope. That's what's up. I wish I cared.
And that's totally fair.
I wish I cared about the decision.
Here's the thing: me and Evan are both on the ride. You're not, so it doesn't really matter because, like, you're not. You don't care if he lives or dies anyway, so it's not going to hit for you, unfortunately.
I think it's the best kind of ambiguous ending, though. Like, it's exactly like Inception. Like, I think it doesn't matter whether he's in a dream or not at the end. What matters is he's making this decision to accept the reality he's in. This is exactly the same way. Regardless of how you read the ending, like, either way, he passes the test. And he is, like, choosing to do the noble thing for the first time. And if he dies, okay, like, he got what he asked for, he is accepting the consequences. But if he lives, I think we have strong textual evidence that he will be a changed person.
I think that that's why it works well. There's, like, multiple different ways you could view it, and it's kind of whatever, whatever's going to make you feel the best about the message. You know what I mean? Like, I feel best about the fact that, like, he's allowed to change, and then he is allowed to then do something with that change, especially because he's going to inherit the throne one day, so he might be a better ruler. Now, the way I interpreted it is that in some way he saw that future, and that's why he took the sash off in the first place. Is because he saw that whole life flash before his eyes, and he realized he realized what he was going to do and what he was going to turn into and how it was going to affect everybody he cares about. And he's like, I can't be that person. And it's effective to me because we've literally watched him make the wrong decision over and over and over again, trying to take shortcuts through every little bit of this journey. And then he decides, like, he's not going to do it anymore. And that's really what matters.
Are you both saying that you cared about him making that decision at the end? You're both saying that. Like, you cared about him reaching the end of his character arc. You cared about him as a character in that ending.
I think it's more so that the ending is resonant than that I cared. I mean, I do, but I think, again,
not between the two endings whether he lives or dies. I'm saying his decision to stay and get his head lopped off. Like, you cared about that. You cared about
it. Makes me respect him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to say it.
That's my overwhelming reaction, is that it makes me respect him. I'm not sure whether that counts as caring or not, but that's how I feel at the end.
Because I was going to ask, at what point did you give a damn? Was it once you saw Dev Patel was playing him? Like,
it might have been during that montage for me, honestly.
Which, I Oh, at the very end?
It's been a while, because I saw this in theaters, so it's been a while since I first saw it, but I think my reaction during that long sequence was just like, oh no. Like, really? This is our guy? And I was like, that feels like the tragedy. And I thought maybe that was the ending we were getting. I don't remember if I predicted that it would be a fake out, but I was just like, oh, this is gonna be really upsetting if this is the end, that just like, oh, he gets there and he just doesn't change, and like maybe that's what they're going with, and we get like the happy ending kind of, which is nice. I don't know, I liked it. But I think I only care about him at the very end because, like, I think I care both ways. So I guess I did. I'm not sure at what point I did or why, but when it's showing the end, that like both the fake flash forward and when it cuts back to him deciding to die or to accept death, I do care about him in both. Or at least first time when I didn't know what was happening, I was just like disappointed in him, which I guess means that I cared on some level.
I think that, going off what you're saying, I think that had they ended it just on that montage where it's like the kind of tragedy type ending, that would not have been effective because they hadn't established this character as well as they could have. Like, if it was a character that we really, really cared about and really emphasized with from the get-go, and we were like fully on board, like this was our favorite character, then it would have been like, oh, that hurts me because he made this terrible decision. But because we don't, it would have just felt narratively unsatisfying. And I think the narratively satisfying thing was watching this character, whether we care about him or not, making the decision that makes us respect him. You know, making the decision we would have liked to think that we would have made is to like face that.
Hell
As
no.
opposed to running away.
Sorry.
Well, not that specifically, but I'm saying face the consequences of your actions rather than running away.
So,
not
Jelani,
the axe thing.
Remember what you brought up on Drag Me to Hell? The whole thing about, like, do we care about, I don't remember her name.
Christine?
From Drag Me to Hell. Yeah, so I part of why I wanted to bring this movie up on that episode was we get the ending where the Death Force comes after her and it gets her at the end. And we don't have a moment like this. We talked about how the characterization in that movie is a little bit weak as well. But I think it is stronger here than it is in Drag Me to Hell. Even if there's places it could be improved, he's making a decision at the end that is showing that he's been changed by this experience, which is not a moment that we have with Christine and Drag Me to Hell. And we kind of get the reverse fake out with her, where it's like, oh, she's going to go live happily ever after with Justin Long. And then, nope, here comes death. It's like a different kind of fake out. And this one, it just doesn't mean anything in that movie. It's just, aha, look, horror thing, bad ending, go to sleep, everyone. And in this, there is some kind of thematic meat to it.
I had to think about it, but you're right with the characterization thing as far as that decision. There's also a difference, though, in the Death Force movies you've mentioned and this one, because he's seeking it out. And the other ones, they're coming after.
That is true. Yeah, and it's different because, like, so the other two that I mentioned, Puss in Boots and Dead Man's Chest. Puss in Boots beats death because he, like, through accepting it, he is able to, like, at least live a little longer. But he's learned how to, like, value his life. And I like that in that movie. I like it especially because it's a kid's movie. In Dead Man's Chest, he's completing his arc because as Jack Sparrow keeps running from Davy Jones and the Kraken, a whole bunch of other people are getting hurt. And throughout that whole movie, he's making it very clear, like, yep, I will put Will in danger. I will put Elizabeth in danger. I'll put my crew in danger. I'll put 100 random people in danger only so that I can survive. And at the end, He's facing down the Kraken, and he's like, okay, I will... Well, actually, it's not really that moment. It's when he rows away from the boat and then comes back to help them fight the Kraken because he is growing a conscience and is deciding not to let anyone else get hurt. Those are both examples where I like that accepting death on some level, or at least like facing down in those two examples, they're facing down the like unstoppable death force, and it's the end of a character arc. This one is a little bit of a more like dour take on it, where I think he just dies, but at least it means something here, whereas Drag Me to Hell, it doesn't. And I think the other two, it has meaning. If I'm making a point there, it's like, if you're going to do this kind of ending where you have your protagonist die, it should mean something. And I think that was a question we posed on Drag Me to Hell. I don't think it means anything there. I think it absolutely does mean something here.
And I agree. It definitely does mean something here. Because again, they do build up those themes, even if it's not built up consistently throughout the movie.
That scene in isolation, I think, has enough meat to it that you can, like, just Act 3, from when he gets to the castle to, like, I almost feel like you could take out Act 2 of this movie.
You could make this a short.
Yeah, kind of. I think you could kind of take out all of Act 2, because I don't feel like it really feeds into 1 or 3
it's just the green,
or plot-wise.
Shorten the title to The Green.
I feel like it's a little disjointed in that way. But I'm also just happy that, like, the end scene is my favorite. It's so rare, I feel like, that the end of a movie is the best part. And I think maybe that is kind of part of why my rating of this is high, is because it always ends at the best point. And I'm like, yeah, that was a good movie. Like, as I, like, turn off the TV or walk out of the theater.
You fist bump?
Yeah. Well, I was like, that was good.
Freeze frame.
Into the Breakfast Club.
Why didn't you do that at the end of X-Men Dark Phoenix, Evan? Or Multiverse of Madness? I don't...
Well, I would have done it at the end of those because I was glad it was over. I didn't hate either of them.
I remember also asking the question in Drag Me to Hell whether she deserved it or not. And here, I mean, yeah, that's the whole point. He did it to himself. So.
Yeah, I think it's like this does a couple things. That's another thing this does that Drag Me to Hell doesn't. You made the point in Drag Me to Hell, like, what was the problem with Christine doing that? Like,
she did what anybody would have done.
Was she even responsible? Here, there's no ambiguity. It's like, okay, here's the rules. You broke the rules, or you followed the rules, but maybe you shouldn't have that way. Like, and that's part of the exchange. He says, "Is this all there is? And what else ought there be?" Like, yeah, this is exactly what I said was going to happen, man. What did you expect?
I would pay to hear him say that in that voice. This is exactly what you did. Like, I laid the rules out, man. What did you expect?
Bro, what did you think was going to happen?
Bro, like, I set the rules out a year ago. Like, everybody heard the rules. I don't think he's been paying attention. But to hear that in his voice...
it's a lot more eloquent than that.
Nah, to hear that in
the
his
rough,
voice,
innocent
that would have
voice.
been...
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to.
No,
I don't know. I'm not even going to attempt to. I'm good enough at voices. I don't think I could do his voice.
I don't think my voice goes that deep. I think I'd need a second Adam's apple.
I don't think anyone's voice goes that deep. I think that he is several deeply voiced men all speaking in unison.
You need like at least 2 or 3 more Adam's apples for that. Like,
I mean, he's a tree. He might have a few apples. So.
Wow. And see, that one was on purpose, everybody.
There's the fist bump moment. That one was on purpose.
And he even said this will just like an apple.
We could tell that was on purpose.
Oh, that was good.
That was pretty good. I appreciated that.
I tried to hold it. Man. That was funny.
Okay.
You're stupid ass grin after too.
I was a little too proud of that. So, to get to the non-episode related things, we had another Cluecast sent in by Jelani's mom.
Oh, yeah, wait, let me pull it up.
What? That's great. I'm excited.
I already talked to my mom about this movie when I called her for Mother's Day. Shout out to everybody's moms out there
Hi, Mom.
giving birth
This
to
will
them.
be coming out a little bit after Mother's Day, but
Yeah.
we're recording the day after.
Yeah, shout out to moms for like giving birth and stuff.
I guess.
Somehow so
So-
sincere, but so low effort at the same time.
I love deadpan delivery. That's my specialty. Yeah, my mom sent this in 3 weeks ago. I'll go from the bottom up, and I already talked to her about it. It's that's what I was saying. It's kind of crazy because I talked to my mom about this movie and kind of ranted with her over the phone too. So I might just tell her to skip to the end of this episode to hear. her
My mom
stuff
did the
then.
same thing on Mulan with her own pick, like when we read out her picks.
She said Yvette, Margot Robbie, The Motorist. This is for the Clue fan cast. Motorist, Kevin Hart, Evangelist, J.K. Simmons. I really see that. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's a
I feel like
strong
one of us said that.
maybe.
One of
I
us
think we might have said
that,
J.K.
yeah.
Simmons. Yeah, maybe we did. I don't know.
Cop Samuel L. Jackson. That's pretty good too. I can see
Ooh,
that
that's
being
great.
really funny. Singing Telegram, Issa Rae raps instead. Only other thing I've only heard Issa Rae's voice in Across the Spider-Verse. Only other thing I've seen her in is the Black Mirror episode of episode 3, season 7, that is being dragged online because of her acting in it. That's what people are saying. But
I have not watched that one yet.
Yeah. Evan, it's got the villain, Cassandra Nova from Deadpool and Wolverine,
Oh,
as
my favorite.
one of the other leads. It also has Aquafina in one of the leads. Of,
My other favorite.
so she raps instead. Apparently she does that at the beginning of every episode of Insecure. Still haven't seen Insecure. Yeah, Issa Rae is a singing telegram. Cook, Sarah Ramirez, I don't know who that is.
Me neither.
Wadsworth, Robert Downey Jr. I think that's one of the ones I said I was considering for Wadsworth. So not a bad pick in my opinion. I mean, I'm not going to say any of these are bad picks. Hi, Mom. Mr. Green, Penn Badgley.
Okay.
I think he's the guy in You, right?
Yeah, he's the guy I knew. He was on Gossip Girl. He's good.
Peacock, Natasha Rothwell. I agree with this. She said it was based off of her character in Insecure, but I saw her in seasons 1 and 3 of The White Lotus, and I could see her playing Miss Peacock.
Wait, is she the mom or the
Yes, masseuse.
yeah, the masseuse who comes back? Okay, I'd
Yeah.
seen that name. I didn't connect that to her
Yep.
because that's the only role I've seen her. Okay, yep, I see that.
Do you watch The White Lotus? We gotta talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I watched White Lotus.
Mustard, James Marsden, 100% solid. He can play goofy, stupid.
He's got
pretty
good
well.
comedy chops. He's
Yeah.
severely underrated.
No. Plum Lakeith Stanfield, she found a way to put him in there. Solid.
I think that's probably the best role to slot him in.
Mm-hmm.
That's my boy.
Mrs. White, Ali Wong. I think isn't she a comedian?
Yeah,
Yeah,
mostly stand up, I think.
Yeah, stand-up comedian.
yeah. Yeah, but she's
Um,
been in stuff. She was in Beef. Beef's great.
That's what Mom told me to watch for that.
It's so
That-
good.
I've only ever heard her voice in Big Mouth, I think, before I stopped watching Big Mouth.
Okay.
And then Miss Scarlett, Amanda Seyfried, which I don't think I've seen her in enough for that. I think she looks the part.
Yeah, I think her and J.K. Simmons are my two favorites of these
Mhm.
picks. I can really see
Yeah.
both of those.
Yeah. I like most of her main cast,
Yeah.
honestly. But yeah, shout out. I mean, I already talked to her about it. But shout outs to you, Mom. Thanks for submitting a Clue fan cast. For anybody listening, I mean, we're just going to keep that going forever. It's one of the best movies just ever made, ever. So if you want to submit yours, if you're listening now, you can for sure submit that and we'll read it out next recording. So,
Yeah, whenever we get it, like, regardless of how long in the future you
Yeah.
submit this, it'll be on the next one.
Yeah. So thanks for submitting, Moms. Good cast. I like the cast.
Me too.
Very solid.
Angel, where's your mom's Clue cast? Get on that.
I didn't even think about this. I guess I now need it. Well, I found out I didn't realize that she listened to us, but she has listened to a couple of episodes.
I think
I
my
don't know
brother
which
said he's
ones.
going to send in a full cast as well.
I
He
want it
just
to
hasn't done it
be
yet.
the memeiest, because your brother is kind of funny from what you tell me about him. I want it to be just the biggest memed cast ever.
I don't think that's the kind of funny he would do with it. Also, he
Yeah.
doesn't know actors as well as we do, I think so. Or
So
at
a
least he
lot
doesn't
of-
know the same ones.
I feel like he should put The Rock in like 2 or 3 different roles.
I think he might do that unironically. He will put. I'm pretty sure he would put Kevin Hart somewhere. That I feel pretty certain about. I don't know where, but I know he would put him in there. But we'll see. I'll pester him about it. I'll get him to send it in. Anyone at all, send in your picks, and we will read them out. Our next couple episodes are going to be switching to something that Jelani loves, Man of Steel. And then we're going to also do Superman, the James Gunn one, once that comes out.
July 11th, let's go.
So those will both be out.
There's a
in
trailer
week.
coming Wednesday. I mean, we're recording this. It's kind of, the trailer will be out by the time this comes out. But there's a trailer.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, for sure.
telling y'all, there's a trailer coming this Wednesday.
Go watch the trailer, guys. It's here. It's here already because this is the future.
Yeah.
You guys will have already probably seen all the reactions. We don't know what it is yet.
The teaser trailer is at almost 60 million on YouTube.
I can't wait for that part in the trailer where they show the title.
I
so
can't wait
excited.
for when Superman flies.
Says it's Superman in time, and
Oh. Though,
and he supers all over everyone.
what am I, some kind of Superman?
I'm excited to revisit Man of Steel though, because I haven't since the
Same.
theater, so that'll be
Same.
interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
I think it might be. I'm interested.
I've rewatched it like a couple of times. It's fun. It's more enjoyable to revisit than I thought it would be. Like it's very nostalgic.
I watch the fight clips a lot. It's like action figures going at it, man. It's so cool.
I'll try to find this and send it to you guys. But my favorite thing that I've found for Man of Steel is there's a video of like a 1-year-old watching the first flight scene. It is the most adorable thing ever. He does the like fist thing when he flies off. It's like the greatest
love it.
reaction video
It's so
ever.
cute.
Such a great scene, though.
And he reacts it like it's so great. Like that scene's really good on its own, but that's also just like I'll send that to you guys to watch it before we do that episode.
I think he kind of does like the Fassbender laugh from First Class, where he starts cackling, kind of like a maniac,
Yeah.
once he gets the groove of it.
Speaking of Henry Cavill, kind of slight segue. By the time this comes out, if I get all my ducks in a row, there should also be a video essay about
Oh.
Mission Impossible
I was wondering where that was
out
going.
on the main channel, if we want to call
Speaking
it
of
that.
Henry Cavill, guess who our guest is next episode for Man of Steel? Whoa!
He's gonna reload his fists all over the podcast.
And then we're gonna be like, wrong movie, Henry. Please. Where is your cape? We asked you to bring it.
Hey Henry, what's your favorite movie? Oh, The Green Knight.
Oh. Never meet your heroes, Jelani.
I was in that movie. I played the Knight's axe.
Hey, he's got the range. Anyway, that will be out. It'll be very long, probably around 45 minutes. It's looking like what it's shaping up to
Oh, because he's made of steel.
be. Oh, is the axe made of steel?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's mostly wood, though, because it's, you know.
I thought it was made of symbolism.
Actually, I don't
You
know
know,
if that's
it
one of the
probably
few
is.
things that doesn't seem symbolic.
I feel like there's no. Yeah, no. I can't think of what the symbolism of the axe is.
Was the axe
personally.
real? Was any of it real? Did he ever wake up?
I mean, but Barry Keoghan was like, "Oh, look at this axe," and he tried to take it. So I think it was real.
I thought he was gonna get them back, and then they never showed up again.
Yep, because reasons.
Actually, wait. Doesn't he show up in the montage?
Yeah, you're right.
He shows up in the montage as Gawain is walking back.
Oh, yeah. You're right. He does.
Yeah.
But he doesn't
Like
do
we
anything.
see him in the background, but he doesn't do anything. Yeah.
Final boilerplate things. We have our Patreon. We have our accounts on Instagram and Blue Sky at INT Analysis Pod. I am on Letterboxd, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Ev_Wes. Where are you guys at?
I'm on Instagram, Jelani T. Kelly. I don't think I've posted anything on YouTube in forever, but YouTube, Jelani T. Kelly. Actors Access, Jelani T. Kelly. I've gotten like 19 auditions in less than 2 weeks. So, people see something. It's only a matter of time before I actually start booking any of these things.
And then I'll be the axing of the Green Knight too.
What?
The search
How
for
ironic
more
it
money.
would. The search for more money. I mean, they do need to search for more money because this did not make a lot. So,
Did it bomb?
I mean, kind of, because it was a COVID release. It didn't make its budget back.
Yeah.
At least.
What did it
But a
make?
lot of stuff around that time wasn't making money, so it's kind of hard to
Yeah,
gauge.
it cost 15 and made 20.
Oh, I saw that
Oh,
on
that's not
15
bad.
million,
11.
15 million and made 20 million.
That's not bad.
It's not awful, but it definitely.
You want to double it.
Yeah, you want to double
Yeah.
it to make a profit.
Well, now it's even more. It's
typically.
even worse now. I think you need to make like 2.5 times to make a profit.
Jeez.
Something like that. It's insane.
I think
Yeah.
it depends on the marketing budget. That's just the
That's true.
estimate. But
I
yeah,
think Sinners did it. Sinners
Yeah.
pulled it off, thankfully.
yeah. I'm so glad that's making money. Anyway, maybe episode on that. Maybe we should talk about that if we have.
Oh,
time.
100% we'll do. Once it,
Oh,
once
yeah.
it comes to streaming, we should.
Once
I'm
I
down
see
for
it.
that. Oh,
You
yeah.
I
haven't
will go see it. I haven't seen it. I know. I'm sorry. I will go see it soon.
I think it's out at theaters now, isn't it?
No, it should still be
Like,
there. It's still
no,
making
there's no
money,
way.
so it should still be there.
Maybe it's like the 4th week now, then.
I think it is. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time with Man of Steel.